al-Islam. God says of al-Islam. Next we want to go to the religion, Islam. Al-Islam. Al-Islam. God says of al-Islam that it is Deen al-Fitra. Deen al-Fitra. فطرة التي فطر الناس عليها. It is the religion of fitra. And the translators will give their translation, their word for English word for fitra. But let us find out the word for fitra. God says of himself that he is the one who fattara samawati wal ard. From the same word just used as a verb. He is the one that fattara samawati wal ard. He is the one who originated the skies and earth, or the heavens and the earth. Fattara samawati wal ard. And it says of God in the whole Quran that he is the Fatir. Al-Fatir. He is the originator. And God puts the question to man who wants to question what God revealed and wants to question his messenger Muhammad, or wants to question what Muhammad is teaching them. They always question God. Why don't you question your own creation? You question God and neglect or fail to question your own creation. How did you get here? You're in the dark. You don't know. You only have guesses. You only have theories. You have no concrete proof. So you don't even know your own beginning, and you're going to question how God began. And you have questions for God, and you forget to question your own creation. It is wonderful. So plain, so logical, so rational, so factual. Now, I know you perhaps have never heard an expression like that, so factual. I said that for some of my friends too, who used to put all their faith in the actual facts. And they were actually lacking in fact. Praise be to Allah. The guidance that his soul that God created was hungering for, starving for, and qualified him to be leader, liberator for the whole world, teaching for all worlds, mercy to all people in all worlds. Yes. So now, with our attention on those two, let us go now to the Quran. Attention on the Quran. God says, this book, Hudan lin-nas, this book is guidance for the people, all people lin-nas, guidance for all people. Hudan lin-nas. But it is not only guidance. It is not only guidance. The world is full of guidance. Each people got their guidance. Each nation has its guidance. Each individual has his or her guidance. But the world is full of guidance. And the guidance was here in the New Testament. The guidance was there. The guidance was in the Old Testament, and guidance came behind guidance. Like prophets came after prophets, guidance after guidance. But people looked at it and they came up with their own idea of it and filled the world up full of different guidance. Guidance that are varying with each other. Guidance that are conflicting with each other. So it's not just enough to give guidance. We have a problem. This group has this guidance, and And they say of our guidance that our guidance is not the genuine one. Our guidance is not the authentic one. And another group have their guidance, and they're saying to the group that just condemned us that that group too doesn't have the right guidance. So it's not enough just to give us guidance. We need a way to argue with others that got guidance. We need a way to prove our point to others that claim that their guidance is the guidance too. So Allah says subhanahu wa ta'ala that this is guidance hudan linnas for every human person. وَبَيِّنَاتٍ مِنَ الْهُدَى وَالْفُرْقَانِ. Not only is it guidance, but it is the rule. It is the logic. It is the rule for debating to prove what is guidance and what is not guidance. Allahu Akbar. هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. Praise be to Allah. Now, with so much said about the human person in his or her most excellent form, made by God, made by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, highly glorified this evening. And now that we've also had something to say, much to say really, about El-Shaddai. Few words, but a lot to say. Now that we've had our say about Islam as the religion answering the need in the perfect human soul that God created. And we've had something to say about the Quran. God says of the Quran, because this book is so valuable. This book is so valuable. This book is a must for the salvation of the world. Without this book, the world cannot have salvation. You hear what I'm saying? I'm not adding, I'm not exaggerating, I'm not stretching. I'm saying this very modestly. This book is a must. This book is a must if human beings and the human community of the world is to be saved. This book is salvation. This book is the life. This book is the life. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala salah. Come living. For what? For prayer. For prayer. You're called to prayer. And you're told to come alive. Just like a magician or a magic or something. Saying to the dead, come living again. Come to life again. And come pray with us. Come pray with us. So where is the food for your life? The prayer is the food for your life. You're being called to prayer because the prayer is the food for your life. The prayer itself is the food for your life, and the food for your life is the life. The food for your life is the life that God wants you to come into. It is the life. And it has been prescribed or it has been put together. The diet was made, or the menu was put together specifically for your original soul and your needs as a human being in this world. Yes. So you don't come alive. Wake up, come alive. Dead, rise and be alive. Be alive. Dead, get up and be alive. Come to Salat. And what is the Salat? The Quran. The Quran. When you come to the Salat, you're going to hear the Quran. One time in the month of Ramadan, The Prophet recited the whole Quran in one night. In one night. The whole of the Quran in one night. What was that Quran? The life. What was they hearing? The life. So what is your call to come to Salat? Come to the life. The Quran is the life. The Quran is the life of the world. The Quran is the light, L-I-G-H-T, of the world. The Quran, hear me? The Quran is the salvation of the world. In the beginning there was the Word, and the Word became flesh, and the Word was with God, and the Word came in the world and dwelt among men, not just the Word. And the Word is the life, and the Word is food, and the Word is drink, and the Word is salvation. هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. Praise be to Allah. It is guidance for all people, and it is a rule for making arguments and judgment, deciding what is guidance and what is not. Praise be to Allah. Now, if you all are with me in the light, you can come with me to New Africa. It's going to outshine Timbuktu. It's going to outshine. Now, if you all are with me in the light, you can come with me to New Africa. It's going to outshine Timbuktu. It's going to outshine Mali, Shanghai. It's going to be the brightest light coming up from black holes that you've ever seen in the history of man. Because it is going to be a light after the light of Medina Munawwara, under the greatest human person ever on walked the face of this earth, Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Yes, it's going to be the brightest light and the cleanest light, the most perfect light that ever was shined on this part of the world, I guarantee it. And what are we going to have there or here in New Medina? This is a good place to start right here too, in Newark, in the Meadowlands, in Jersey. Good place. Newark, let's change it from Newark to New Africa. All you need is enough political numbers. All you need is enough political numbers and enough financial strength and enough human excellence, and this Newark can be renamed New Africa. Not that that's not necessary, because just like New Jerusalem is not a physical piece of geography, New Africa is not necessarily a physical piece of geography. New Africa is any place, like one learned modern day leader from outside of America said that anywhere you can establish Islam is Islamic territory. So anywhere we can establish New Africa, this vision we have of New Africa in America, it will be New Africa territory. And it will be Islamic territory. Because New Africa for us is a new chance to establish Al-Islam with our own hands. with our own hands. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Yes? Yes, sir. We must establish our community life with our own hands. Not somebody else's hands. Our own hands. And Allah is with us to do it. I guarantee that. Allah is with us to do it. Allah is with me to do what I've done. Allah is with me now. And that's enough evidence for me that Allah is going to be with me later. And we are going to be very successful. Very successful. There's something missing in our soul. The soul of a community man. And once our brothers from overseas come and live here with us in America, they're going to have the same hunger come into their soul if it's not there already. As Muslims, we can't be satisfied in our souls until we establish community life on a piece of geography, physical piece of geography in these United States of America. So I'm not speaking only to you, I'm speaking to our Pakistani brothers, I'm speaking to our Indian brothers, I'm speaking to our African brothers, I'm speaking to our Arab brothers, I'm speaking to our Iranian brothers, I'm speaking to all Muslims in America. This is the direction that Imam Deputy Muhammad suggests for you. You cannot fulfill your religious life in America until you have a piece of geography, a physical piece of land, and your own mosque in your school, in your hospital, your clinics, your businesses, your banks. The neighborhood must be managed by you. And you must call the time for adhan on your jobs. You must regulate the industry to accommodate our spiritual life. No one else can do it for us. God, when He prescribed for us Islam, He put us in a position where we cannot satisfy the need of our souls until we satisfy the obligation that He gave to us from the hand of Muhammad the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the obligation to establish the Ummah of Islam on a physical piece of this earth. It doesn't mean that we have to challenge the government or do away with the government or go to war with anybody. No, we're going to peace. We're going to P-E-A-C-E. We're going to peace with the establishment. But we are going to insist upon having the freedom to build a model community so that the establishment will have the opportunity to look at what an Islamic community really should be and really is, and decide whether it want to continue with life as it has it, or whether it want to adopt Islamic life for itself. This world won't have a choice until we present the excellent societal life that God has revealed in the Quran and in Muhammad's example. So I'm motivated by so many strong interests. Not only personal, I have a personal one too. Every one of us have a personal motivation. We don't want to meet our Maker. If we don't know it in our mind, our hearts know it, our soul know it, that we don't want to go to our Maker. We don't want to see the judgment and haven't done anything to make God say, welcome, welcome in my presence, fine creature that I made.
Shalom alaikum. That's the reality. It's a reality. But there's some people among us that live a life of illusion because they're trying to live both sides. And when things doesn't work, they're negotiating with non-Muslims to get something happening. That's why we have the devastation in Palestine. You know, we have so much money and very little iman. Not we, the general population, you know. We who are the institutions of governments in countries that should be Islamic countries. So we're coming and we'll be going. Now I want you to listen this very carefully and pay attention to what's being said. Believe me, it's hurtful.
Mr. President, the United Nations Security Council has for half a year, 6 months, been unable to adopt a document with a demand for a ceasefire in Gaza. All of the attempts, time and again, came up against the resistance of the United States, who 4 times, in cold blood, cast a veto in this chamber. In this time, we have heard from U.S. colleagues repeatedly their justifications. Either they were saying that the achievement of a ceasefire is premature, insofar as there is a need to give space for so-called counterterrorism efforts of Israel, or they demanded for the Security Council not to stand in the way of effective diplomacy of Washington on the ground. That is a quote. Or they called for us to wait for the onset of Ramadan, when apparently an agreement would definitely be reached for a ceasefire, for an end to the violence. And now, 6 months have elapsed. Gaza has virtually been wiped from the earth. And now the U.S. representative, without blinking, has been asserting that Washington has finally begun to recognize the need for a ceasefire.
You see? Late again, you know? Now listen, and listen keenly again.
After 5 months of monitoring and analyzing Israel's onslaught on Gaza, my report finds that there are reasonable grounds to believe that the threshold indicating that Israel is committing the crime of genocide against the Palestinians as a group in Gaza has been met. Specifically, Israel has committed 3 acts of genocide with a requisite intent: killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, and deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. The flagrant and systematic slaughter of Palestinian civilians, the deployment of unlawful weaponry, the utter obliteration of vital civilian infrastructure, including the deliberate targeting of all Gaza's hospitals, and the man-made starvation of the Palestinian people transcend the realm of war crimes and crimes against humanity that had been seen in the occupied Palestinian territory before. The monstrosity unfolding is accompanied by a pervasive anti-Palestinian narrative and dehumanization emanating from the uppermost tiers of Israeli society, including high-ranking officials with command authority and frequently reflected in soldiers' actions on the ground. This reflects the intent, ad dolus specialis, to destroy in whole or in part, which is what distinguishes genocide from other atrocity crimes. In the case of Gaza, there exists a chilling clarity of this purpose: the systematic eradication of an entire people, or at least a significant part thereof. One of the key findings is that Israel's executive and military leadership and soldiers have intentionally distorted, using bellow principles, subverted their protection functions in an attempt to legitimize genocidal violence against the Palestinian people. The only reasonable inference that can be drawn from the unveiling of this policy is an Israeli state policy of genocidal violence toward the Palestinian people in Gaza. I will now be happy to take your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Albanese. We'll first take questions from the room. Reuters, please.
Madam Special Rapporteur, thank you. Just wondering on a personal level for you, given how vocal you have been and how some of your statements might not please certain people, have you received any threats, any attempts at intimidation while working on this report? Thank you.
Thank you for your concern. I mean, it's been a difficult time. I've I've been attacked since the very beginning of my mandate. I don't say that it's been a pleasant journey, but I can tell you it's much more, I mean, most of the pain comes from where I have to observe and monitor and investigate day by day. Yeah, I do receive threats, nothing that so far I have considered needing extra precautions. Pressure, yes, and it doesn't change either my commitment or the results of my work, I think.
Yes, Moussa Assi, Al Mayadeen TV, please.
Merci beaucoup. Madame Albanese, vous avez évoqué des génocides depuis 1948 ou 1947 et cela a fait beaucoup d'écho du côté israélien. Comment vous pouvez nous expliquer donc votre point de vue concernant cette hypothèse, donc le massacre qui ont été commis en 1947 avant la création d'Israël ou bien après, ou bien comment ça a déroulé cette hypothèse? Merci.
Je m'excuse, mais je n'ai pas vraiment compris la première partie de votre question. C'est quelle hypothèse?
Dans votre rapport, vous avez parlé de actes des génocides depuis la création d'Israël.
Non, je n'ai pas fait ça.
Non.
Je suis désolée, je n'ai pas fait ça.
D'accord, alors
D'autres l'ont fait, mais si vous avez bien lu mon rapport,
oui.
Je pense que ce n'est pas le cas, parce que je n'ai jamais évoqué ça. Je parlais d'une autre chose. Je dis que, et je l'ai bien mis dans le contexte de l'histoire, le génocide, ce n'est pas un acte, c'est un processus. Et l'histoire coloniale est pleine d'idéologies et pratiques génocidaires. Parce qu'il vise à l'élimination des peuples indigènes, des peuples autochtones. La Palestine a expérimenté, le peuple palestinien en Palestine a expérimenté ces pratiques dès le début. Je n'ai pas conclu que c'est du génocide dès le début, mais clairement, c'est des pratiques éliminatoires. Parce que ce que les Palestiniens sont en train d'expérimenter aujourd'hui, c'est nouveau et choquant pour ceux qui ne connaissent pas l'histoire de la Palestine, mais la destruction des villages, le dépeuplement forcé, être chassé, désintégré en tant que peuple, c'est quelque chose qui est la Nakba. La Nakba, c'est ce que les Palestiniens ont vécu depuis le 1947 et encore le 1967. Personne n'en parle. Mais destruction des villages, dépeuplement forcé, ce qu'ils ont vécu. C'est pour ça que je dis, c'est pas tout à fait nouveau. Maintenant, on a atteint un niveau qu'on ne peut plus ignorer. On a un crime qui est là, une définition légale. Il faut simplement considérer ce qui se passe aujourd'hui et peut-être que d'autres vont faire l'analyse de si c'était déjà génocide en 1947. Ce n'est pas mon cas, mais je suis très convaincue de ce que j'écris dans le rapport pour maintenant.
Before we take questions from journalists online, Jan Dirk Eberman, Tagesspiegel.
Yes, good afternoon. I'd like to ask you on the intent of the Israeli government or Israeli militaries to commit genocide. You're saying that there is intent, and you're quoting the President of Israel, the Prime Minister, the Defense Minister, and some top militaries. But these are only quotes given in speeches or in other circumstances. I would like to ask you, do you have a written document by the government with a clear intent to commit genocide?
Do you think that in Rwanda and in Bosnia-Herzegovina, any government officials wrote a document saying, I want to commit genocide? Have you seen anything like that? I'll answer this for you. No. It doesn't work like that. Those statements are just the tip of the iceberg, because I have a word limit in my reports, which is quite strict. Otherwise, we could write an encyclopedia with what has been said and done. And I said it, and I mean it. If the International Criminal Court is serious about investigating what Israel has done in Gaza, as of the 7th of October, only as of the 7th of October, it will be busy for decades. Looking at the previous genocides and jurisprudence that has been developed on those cases, it's clear that the intent can be direct in statements, public statements, declarations, having people with command authority, or having the prime minister and having the president of the state issuing statements. They are so dehumanizing, evoking violence. Not once, not twice, continuously, for months. It's supported by jurisprudence in other cases, that this is genocidal incitement. And look what, it's been reflected, it has reverberated across the conduct of troops on the ground. They've used the same words. Amalek. Amalek is a program in itself. And then, as you say, are there documents? If you read my report, you will see that I've quoted official documents, legal analysis, that the legal justification that Israel uses. There are two, one version and then an updated version with the key legal findings. And it's exactly what I said. It's humanitarian camouflage, because they justify what they're doing using IHL categories. Evacuations and human shields. Everyone is a human shield. Everyone is a human shield. Women, children, anything that is between the troops and whatever is their objective. And by the way, the overall objective, eradicating Hamas, destroying Hamas, which is not even a real military objective. Because one thing is to neutralize, destroy the military capacity of an organization. Another thing is to target also the civilian components. And this is what has been done. Every Hamas affiliate has been considered targetable, killable, and so their family members. This explains the 30,000 people who have been killed plus. I mean, this is a conservative figure I'm referring to.
Nina Larsson, AFP.
Yes, thank you for taking my question. Over here, sorry. I was wondering if you could say something about the countries that are providing weapons and other support to Israel. You've called for an arms embargo and sanctions, but what responsibility do those countries carry for providing the weapons up until now? And now that you've called for this, and you're saying that this is a fairly clear requirement, what is their responsibility if they continue? If you could say something about that, thank you.
Yes, I formulated that recommendation because this is a clear emanation of the Genocide Convention. When there is a risk of genocide, there are obligations that are immediately have to be followed. So there are different things, but suspending arms transfer, suspending weapons transfer is necessary in order to reduce the level of hostilities and violence against civilians. After the 26th of January's ICJ interim ruling, there was no doubt whatsoever that was the obligation pending on all states. And this has not been acted upon. So I didn't for me, of course, we know who's the main political and also economic supporter of Israel. So, of course, the eye and the mind immediately goes to the United States, but there are other states. And I intend to look further into this, so probably my next report will be on this topic, on the issue of responsibility.
We'll go to journalists who are participating online, starting with Antonio Brotto, FA. Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to follow up, I'm sorry. I just wanted to check, would you say that they could be considered complicit in the genocide that you've seen?
This is not something that I can conclude right now, but the risk is there. And there are already legal proceedings that have been started in the United States, for example, by the Center for Constitutional Rights. But I'm not in a position to conclude that as well.
Okay, we'll move to journalists who are attending this press conference online, starting with Antonio Brotto, Spanish news agency, please.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask if you think that your conclusions should accelerate the verdict of International Court of Justice regarding genocide in Gaza. Some say that it could take years for them to make a decision, but do you think it could be faster? Thank you.
I do not know if this will accelerate the proceedings of the court. I imagine that my report brings to the fore an important piece of analysis, which is what I called humanitarian camouflage. Because the tendency is to look at what Israel has done as isolated war crimes. And this is why I say, well, if we take a step back and look at the full picture, and for once we try not to miss the forest for the trees, we get it. Also because it's been said, as I said, the intent is so ostentatious. I mean, they're already planning how to rebuild Gaza for the settlers. It's shocking. And so probably that will provide further analytical elements. But my objective as a special rapporteur is not necessarily to influence the court, is to make sure the member states comply with international law, because it's not an act of charity. It's an international obligation they have. And a society which accepts to depart from international law, it's a society, and I talk about the international community, which accepts to face barbarity, because this is when we leave the use of force unchecked rule our international order.
Yes, so we say here that the world is a-changing and will not, we stress, go back to what we all have previously been experiencing. And to clarify very clearly, she made it clear that they're already planning set the developments. That's factual. We will get to see that at a later date from overhead and see what's actually happening in dividing Gaza. Yes. So we're going to say salams, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us, help us, and guide us.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون فما يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين.
Yes. Abdullah, come up here. Quick, run fast, boy.
I'm exhausted. Last night I couldn't sleep, but when I did, I could hear bombs in my dreams. Nightmare situation. How could they be so evil, making martyrs out of children and innocent people? We expect the bombs, not knowing where next. Huddle in the corner of my room, trying to protect my little brother as the building shakes like it's possessed. But nothing stronger than the will of the oppressed. I bomb back with my lyrics and rhymes, living the times trying to break the Palestinian minds. What's hiding in the clouds hanging over my head? My dad risks his life outside to buy bread. The fourth war in my 12th year. At this stage I'm numb, no I haven't feel scared. There's nothing I can do in this case to stay safe. I'm brave, even though this house could be in my grave. I want freedom for the population. 2 million prisoners living in this location, shouting at the wall but nothing is ever changing. That's life under an occupation. I want freedom for the population. 2 million prisoners living in this location, shouting at the wall but nothing.
Yes. 2 million people living in Gaza. You see? Okay. But they're not 2 million anymore. They've been decreased. And the humiliation should by now got the whole world saying, stop this. So, what would prevent others from somewhere doing likewise, something similar? Because the top 5 is showing that the United Nations ain't united. But it hasn't got any say. So what is going to be preventing any confused mind somewhere, somehow, sometime doing likewise? Just reflecting and saying, if they did it, we can do it. And what we have to do is set up some lawyers that's prepared to listen, argue our point, dispute their point, and we'll get away, we'll do what we're doing. It's sad. It's a shame. It's a shame. Democracy, is that what it's called?
Palestine's been occupied for decades, but a home for centuries. This land is generations of my family's memories. To plant, grow, and nurture the symbol of peace. The olive trees guaranteed that our people could eat. Living with limitations, pushed down by the occupation. Wanna see the pain? Take a look at the people's faces. Imagine being kicked out of the only house you ever known. We're praying for our souls while they're preying on our homes. It's not easy to put this into words. Looking at my baby sister, is this something she deserves? Going up in a world where she's not treated the same, denied the right to live free because of where she came. They wanna occupy this land, won't let them occupy my mind. I stay occupied aside as I write about my life, because my only mission is to make people listen. This one's for Shashara, hoping it can make a difference. Cause the same thing happened in 48. My grandparents got evicted and forced to move away to the refugee camp in Gaza. No, nothing has changed. They can never return, so that's where I am.
Yes, so we have to say salam alaikum, because we don't know what YouTube may do to the news that we played earlier on. You know, they'll probably be contacted and told there's a violation, community violation. So we're saying, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us anything that we have done wrong. May He forgive us what we may have done wrong intentionally and unintentionally, not knowingly. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for our population in Palestine, in Gaza, and all the suffering people where they've been afflicted with inhumane actions wherever in this earth. And may the good peoples reflect and see that Al-Islam, not Muslims, Al-Islam is a salvation for humanity. Yes, Al-Islam. Assalamu alaikum.